best in new comedy, poetry and spoken word.
Well, how are you diddly-doing? My name's Emma Millen and this is your Upload Show, a show where we like to celebrate, champion the creative people right here in the North East. Now, if you're thinking, I could maybe pass for being a creative in the North East, and by the word creative, I mean if you're a podcaster, a YouTuber, a TikToker, maybe you are a stand-up comic, maybe you are also a stand-up poetry, spoken word artist, then you are invited into the very exclusive Upload Club. If you fancy appearing on this very show, maybe getting some of your work out there, bbc.co.uk/upload is where you need to be. And coming up on the show, we've got some great creatives. We are going to talk to no other than Gary the Hat. And you guessed it, he's called Gary and he wears a hat. Who would have thought it? He's got something brand new up his sleeve, a new pamphlet, and we'll be talking all about it as well as a little bit of fun and games as well. Be rude not to, you know what I mean? All that to come, as well as some great tunes, including Robbie Williams, Noah Khan, and right now, it's BBC Upload. Emma here with you, as usual, joined in the studio by the lovely, I'll do a drum roll please, it's Gary the Hat. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, you're always welcome. You're always welcome on the show. I mean, last time we spoke, you know, we've heard some of your poetry before. We've heard about your first ever pamphlet. Before we talk about the next pamphlet that is out, how was the last one?
The last one was great. There was a canny turnout for it. I think I was telling you last time I was worried about the snacks and all these other things.
Yes.
So for this one, I decided not to have the snacks and add extra stress and just have guest poets instead.
I would have preferred the snacks. I wouldn't have preferred them. It would be less stressful with the snacks at least.
Exactly.
We'll talk all about the next launch in just a bit, but talk about you. If no one's ever heard of you before, maybe they're just new to the show, they've not heard your sort of style before. What are you all about in your poetry?
I was thinking to myself about it all, like, people seem to enjoy it, and I question myself and go, well, why is that? And the only thing I can come up with is I'm being honest. If not honest about my opinions about things, I'm being honest with myself. So a lot of the personal stuff is just me being honest. I can write stuff and then afterwards when you read it, it's more like a message to yourself, from yourself, you know. I don't have any themes or anything. Something will click and then I start writing about it, and it's usually a rant kind of thing, you know.
That's all right, as long as you're getting it out, you know.
Yeah, so if there's some injustice, whatever it may be, whenever it's something going on in the world or a supermarket price or something like that, and it gets me good, something might come out, you know. But I don't try and write anything. I've tried to write things in particular, but it never seems to work, you know. But the things that come out, I don't know, that just seems to be a natural thing. As for my style, I think the name of this pamphlet says it all, premeditated ignorance, you know. I don't know me ode from me sonnet kind of thing. And because people seem to enjoy what I've done, and my last pamphlet I think was a kind of success. I'm a bit wary about trying to learn a bit more about poetry, so I'm going to remain in premeditated ignorance over all these poetic forms and styles and just continue doing what I'm doing. In ignorance.
That is okay. Like I always say, like as long as you're doing it, you're always making it, you're always creating it. Don't matter if it's right or if someone says, well, that's not the don't care if it's not the poet's way to do it. It's the way I do it, you know what I mean? Exactly. Not like I do it, but you do it very well.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And of course, the last time we spoke, I mean, we talked about you getting into poetry and all the rest of it. Do you still have that plastic bag full of notes and you're there? Yes. For the poems?
It's still in the drawer under the bed.
Lovely. I like it. Because you're Gary the Hat, why are you called Gary the Hat? I think it's explainable, but...
Back in the 90s, I lived in Nottingham and I moved back to Heaven where I was from, you know, and my best mate there was called Gary. Separately, we're both Gary the Pug.
Okay.
But together, it was, well, which one you're talking about? And I got myself a top hat, and I was wearing a top hat at the time, so I became Gary the Hat, just to distinguish between the two of us, you know. So that's where that name came from. I didn't wear my hat all of the time, but since I've been a poet, I seem to have to. I carried it in the bag here because it's too hot to wear. It's too hot to wear. It's too hot to wear it, you know. But I thought in the poetry world, everyone complains if I don't put my hat on. So
You're just Gary without the hat.
I'm Gary the Hatless.
I like it. Well, Gary, stay there. Emma Millen here in the studio for Upload. I'm joined by the amazing Gary the Hat. I mean, talking about, you do have many a hat. I thought it was maybe only a bowler thing because I've only seen you on stage with a bowler hat. But I've actually seen you with more hats that aren't bowler now.
I've got a few. I've got 8 different ones. I've got the one I'm wearing now. I've got the one that you seen us wearing. Mm-hmm. I've got this bike cap thing where horns on.
Oh,
a friend of mine. But at the minute, this one's me.
That's the go-to.
Well, I got this one given, so.
Do you have a bucket hat?
I don't know.
Just have a bucket hat. Talk to me then about your next adventure then.
On Wednesday, I was at the Port Independent in Sunderland as part of the Sunderland Arts and Culture Trail. I done a set there. On Thursday, I released my pamphlet, Premeditated Ignorance. I had guest poets there. The next thing coming up is the Newcastle Fringe Festival. I'm part of Mel's Pure Class Open Mic at the Cumberland Arms, so I'm headlining that on Saturday the 27th of July at 1 o'clock. Thankfully, that's enough at the minute because there's been a lot going on, you know, so I'll get that over and I might have a little break, but which never happens because things always pop up. But since the last time we spoke, in April, I done a featured set down in Nottingham at Speech Therapy. It was really good getting out of the North East because all my poems were new, so you could do like a kind of best-of set. Well, best-of. The ones that I think went down well, you know, so it was like a free range of all your poems, and that went down really well, you know.
Were you nervous? Do it outside of the North East?
No, I was more excited. Keith, who runs it, usually comes up here, you know, he's the king. The stands are in North Shields and Out of Your Head. So I knew him and I was made to feel at home by everybody there, and it was just like being in a room full of friendly people, you know, so I really enjoyed that. But my most nerve-wracking thing was in May. I performed at the Intersectional Wellbeing Pride Festival down in Teesside. Mm-hmm. It was an all-day, so I'd done a 15-minute afternoon set, and then I had a 40-minute set on the night time, but I was running late, so luckily it got cut down to half an hour.
Luckily.
The challenge was everyone's there to watch music, you know, and listen to the bands and that, and I was the only poet there, so it was, how do you keep people interested?
I was going to say, yeah, like what do you fill a 30-minute set with? Obviously, you've got poems, but I mean, there's a lot of poems you can get through, although they're extra long poems.
No, I had to learn how to talk in between.
Oh, no.
Which I don't really like doing. I'm more nervous about what will come out of my mouth. That is unrehearsed than the actual poems. At least the poems, I know what I've got to say. The afternoon set was a family-friendly, so finding things without any swear words, you know.
Radio friendly.
Yes.
That's what we like, especially on this show.
You helped us along with that because I've had to prepare poems for here before, you know, so that actually helped. I had some of them.
Stay there. We'll chat more about your new pamphlet, how we can get involved and all the rest of it after this. Emma Millen here, still joined the studio by the wonderful Gary the Hat. I mean, talking about, forgive my ignorance for not being able to pronounce premeditated ignorance. How did that all come about? Obviously, your first one launched, now your second one launched. Have you done any learns from the first one?
I had a bit more of an idea of putting the pamphlet together and giving it a bit more time, but obviously I've had problems this time, so I'm still running to the last. I'm going to still be running to the last minute, you know, but
tell me how it all came about, really. Like, so obviously you've got your first one. I mean, getting that out there, it's like, oh, right, I've done the first one. That's it, the nerve's gone. And then you're like, actually, let's do another one. And obviously you've got enough writing to fill it, clearly.
Well, what it was when I was writing my first one, it all started with one poem called Enter Johnny Clark. So that was the beginning of my pamphlet. And by the time it came together, it didn't fit in, and I had to reluctantly take it out, you know, and I was a bit gutted about that. So I actually got it into this one instead, you know, the second one. My first one had a lot of older stuff in as well, whereas this one is mostly all stuff that I've wrote recently within the last year. There's a lot of stuff in February. I don't know what it was about February. I think it was because it seemed to last for a year, waiting for spring to come. I mean, we're still waiting for summer at the minute, so... But it seemed to take... February seemed to take ages, and I got quite a few poems. They're not happy poems, of course, because I was feeling a bit fed up, down, miserable, depressed, angry. So there's a quite a few poems in like that. Like we talk about the title, how it related to me, like my poetry journey and how I see poetry. But there's also some of the poems in there, you know, it's like, say, a racist or someone who's transphobic, and you can give them some new information that could change their mind about things, but they want to stay in premeditated ignorance rather than change their whole worldview and look at themselves and change everything because of that. They'll remain in premeditated ignorance. So there's poems sort of about that as well. But then on the positive note, premeditated ignorance for anyone that's got mental health issues can be a very good thing, you know. So I'll not go on social media for my mental health. I'll remain in premeditated ignorance, which is basically be a deliberate aware ignorance over it, and it can help you with your mental health. So there's a lot of different meanings in it, you know, and I just saw this premeditated ignorance wrote down. I thought, oh, I like the sound of that, you know, and it seemed to fit with my poems, with how I am in the poetry world and with mental health as well. So I just thought, that's obviously the name, isn't it?
I mean, is there any poems in there that haven't made it into that book, so you're going to have to have another one?
I think we talked about it last time. I've got a lot of stuff like love and heartbreak and stuff. It'd be good to do something with them poems, but then when you think of a band, like especially a punk band, you know, it's like if you listen to if a punk band's brought a couple of albums out and then they bring an album out of love songs, their fans aren't going to be happy, you know. So I'd probably still go ahead and do it anyway, you know. So because, you know, the poems might talk to somebody that's been through things like that, you know, because they're all honest. Same when you hear a song, it's like you can connect to it. People on, I could maybe do that as Gary the Hatless, just to...
There it is. I mean, I'd love to be able to hear one of the poems from there, if you will.
Because we're in Newcastle, and I live in Sunderland, and I'm from Hebburn. This one's a bit about that. It's called South of the Tyne and North of the Weir. In Sunderland, they ask, are you a Geordie? I say, no, I'm not. I'm from Hebburn, south of the Tyne, north of the Weir. In Newcastle, they ask, are you a Mackem? I say, no, I'm not. I live in Roker, south of the Tyne, north of the Weir. I'm not from Newcastle or Sunderland. I was one of the last to be born in Jarrah, and along with Hebburn and Roker, my home will always be here, south of the Tyne, north of the Weir.
Thank you very much, Gary the Hat. Stay there though, because we're going to have a little game of the upload quiz on the way. But
BBC Upload.
Good evening, how are you doing? My name's Emma Millen. This is your Upload Show. We celebrate the creatives right here in the North East, and my guest tonight has been no other than Gary the Hat. Now, he is a poet, a spoken word artist from Sunderland. Well, not from Sunderland, as we heard from that poem. He is a great creative, and he's a friend of the show, of course. And what I've been doing with friends on the show, basically, if it's your first time on the show, then you get a chat about what you do and hear some of your stuff. You get invited on the next time. You are into the Friends of Upload quiz. The quiz is not very hard. Basically, it is the uploader versus the clock. See, have you ever watched Top Gear before? When they do start on a previously priced car, they have a leaderboard, quick you get around the track, how you are bored. Same sort of thing, but with 5 questions. It's as simple as that. Gary, are you up for it?
I'm ready.
Okay, your name is Gary, but give me 2 more famous Garys.
Gary Oldman, Gary Newman.
Very good. Your new pamphlet is called Premeditated Ignorance. What does that mean?
It's deliberate ignorance.
That's all right. You're a poet. Give me 2 things that rhyme.
Rhyme and time.
I've had that one before. You perform poetry jams and slams. What's your favourite jam?
Strawberry.
Good one. Gary the Hat, name me 3 other hats that isn't a bucket hat.
A Stetson, a bowler, and a trilby.
And that's it. You've done it. That was quick. You've got 47 seconds to beat.
Yeah.
Gary the Hat, you did it in 38 seconds. You're at the top of the leaderboard.
Sorry, Lewis. Well, I'm old, so I'm sure these young ones have got quicker brains than me.
Clearly
I'm
not.
actually putting them to shame.
Clearly not. Gary, thank you very much for joining me. Again, if anyone wants to go check it out, how can they find you?
You can find us on Facebook, Gary the Hat Productions or Gary the Hat, or Instagram, Gary the Hat Productions or Gary the Hat.